in response to the crisis, especially in 2009, the governments of the world organized an emergency G20 meeting, which was, to that point, primarily a meeting of finance ministers because it was a financial crisis. And that has become, over time, the center of economic policy formation at the global level. And it includes many countries that weren't included in these summits in the past: China, Brazil, India, big, fast-growing, emerging parts of the world economy. And the governments of those countries and the labor movements of those countries are very much important if we're going to make a global economy work for everybody. But we've had mixed results, because in 2009, the governments were working together to coordinate their fiscal spending to increase support for economic growth and to avoid another Great Depression. And they basically committed an average of about 2% of GDP for that purpose. It worked in terms of stabilizing the economy, but it was too temporary. And then we discovered in the middle of this year that the governments, particularly here in Europe, had shifted radically into austerity programs to balance their budgets, which has the effect of weakening the economic recovery. And now governments are sort of scrambling against one another in regulatory competitive devaluation of their currency so that they can claim a larger share of a very diminished global output in order to keep all their people employed. So that in 2009 they were working together. In 2010 they've been moving apart. So it's very important for us to try to work in a coordinated fashion with our governments to get them to work together until this recovery has reached a sustainable pace, until people are at work, and until the wage share has been increasing along with productivity, and we have more broadly shared prosperity globally. What we want to argue is that the G20, as the central place for discussion of economic issues, should have an employment and social protection dimension. And each national labor movement is taking to their state demands that they support a call at the G20 to put employment and social protection at the center of the economic recovery. And so the work of the finance ministers needs to be supplemented by the labor ministers and with consultation with the labor movement. And that's one of our strategic goals next year at the G7 and G20, which will be hosted by President Sarkozy here in France.